Welcome once again to O Reacts. And today I'm going to do multiple versions of this. So I guess this will be A or 1, however I'm going to put it. But basically this is on Islam has gone viral. If you haven't noticed that it's gone viral, I don't know where you've been. Because it definitely has. And it's been trending towards this. We might feel like this is like a new thing, but it's been going viral since viral was the thing. It's clearly the fastest growing religion in the entire world, and there are a multitude of reasons for it. And first and foremost is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I like to hear different perspectives on why people think this, even if it's from non-Muslims, Muslims, French Muslims, whatever, whoever. Okay, so I'm not co-signing anything. I'm not even sure what they're about to say, but definitely want to check it out. And if you haven't subscribed already and you like what you see, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell. All right, now let's get right to it. And by the way, this is from the channel Valuetainment.
You won't find much traction in that demographic that's growing among Muslims, which is going to become a very large demographic. You won't find much traction for the idea that men with women, for example. So there's a lot to be hopeful about. A lot of this...
Oh, I don't know. This is did I start from the beginning or something? I don't know. I just heard this guy talking about... I don't even think can I even say that? I better bleep what I just said. So it's probably not going to be in the video, but let's continue.
It's woke crap. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes.
Yeah. So
by the way, I've seen this brother before. I believe it was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And if I'm not mistaken, and Allah forgive me if I'm wrong, I wasn't too happy with some of the things this guy was saying. If I remember correctly, he was talking some wild stuff. But I'm going to still hear him out, still hear what he got to say. Let's check it out.
bullshit has no traction.
Man, people, man, this guy's on a roll. Hold on. What the?
Muslim communities. Nor did the COVID mandates, by the way. Some of the biggest opponents of this whole mandate era were...
It doesn't in the Muslim community.
That's right, yeah.
Why not?
Again.
And I'm proud of that. Because I am definitely along those lines. I did not take that. Okay? I'm not going to say what it is. You heard what it is. I did not take it. I refuse to take it. I don't care if it costs me my job. I don't care what. I refuse to take it, and I refuse to let any of my children take it. And other family, I've tried my best to talk them out of it, and none of them would really wanted it. They all said they didn't want it, but a lot of them, if not most of them, got forced into it due to their job. Their jobs forced them to do it. I'm to the point where I'm like, I'll lose my job and get another job. But I can understand people not taking that stand. Anyway, let's get back to it.
And back to this point, when you're tuned out of the bullshit, which is the data tracking, the matrix illusion that we all live in, when you're just with people, none of this problem.
I'm not crazy about this matrix. People were referring to, like, I guess the dunya as the matrix. I don't like it. I really don't. I know Brother Andrew Tate made that kind of popular. And even though he wasn't the first to say that, he kind of blew it up. And just people just tend to say that now. I'm not too crazy about that. I'm more along the lines of it's the dunya. It's just the dunya, which means this world. Anyway, let's continue.
Propaganda. You know, I just spent a whole month in a mosque every single night because of Ramadan, praying not just the 5 daily prayers and not just the special Ramadan evening prayer, which is the Taraweeh prayer, but also the Tahajjud prayer, the night prayer. Every night, just leaving my phone at home, speaking to people, I can promise you out the...
Mashallah, I did say a little criticism of him from what I saw in the past. And, people do change, in all fairness. So there's no telling if he still has the same views or anything like that. But what he just said right now is something that is good. So, it's nice to hear that.
There, in Muslim communities, the numbers you mentioned, whether it's in Pakistan, whether it's in Indonesia, because they are so tuned out of this propaganda, and that's the reason why, again, it has years of history behind it, not trusting Western propaganda and all that because of colonialism. There's a long history there, but because they're so tuned out, in the real world, where people are talking and mixing with each other.
Define tuned out.
Not dependent for their perspective of around life on the very narrow sources of information that we have ended up with in our discourse. And
I have to agree with that. That's a good definition, yeah.
COVID demonstrated that in the way in which our sources of information were so minutely controlled. These are communities that have, because let's take Pakistan as an example with vaccinations. As Vox reports, you can pull it up if you want, but the CIA, in its hunt for bin Laden, engaged in a fake hepatitis B vaccine program against children, using the cover of vaccines to try and take people's DNA against their will by deception, looking for bin Laden. That got revealed, which, as I say, it's on Vox, VOX. That got blown up. The CIA had to apologize for it. But when you've got a history of abuse like that, nobody trusts the messaging in the first place to say, take this shot or you're going to lose your job. Everyone has, their starting point is you're all a bunch of liars. So when you're tuned out in that way, what you've got left, you've got no money. It's a developing world. You've got no power. What you've got is relationships. And your relationships are the only thing that matter. As anyone with a Middle Eastern background know, the idea of, in Pakistan it's called safarish, but the idea of it's who you have to know people, your family, your tribal members, even to get on in life, because the system doesn't work. The system has never worked for a long time. So it's the relationships that matter. Now, in that context, you've got no time for the bull propaganda. So there's no traction for this, these woke culture wars. There's absolutely zero traction for vaccine mandates.
But it has to be, because somebody at the top shuts it down.
Yeah.
Because if the person at the top doesn't shut it down, then there can be traction. Okay, there's a part about. So if you want to pull up these stats, I just sent it to you with the whole percentage of go a little lower, go a little lower, go a little lower, go keep going, keep going, keep going. Let me see if this is the link. Percentage of Muslims who support gay is this article that I found.
Yeah, I was just gonna go.
If you can go to that one, and it says by age. I don't know if you see. Okay, I didn't send you this link. I sent you a different link. I sent you the Pew Research link. Maybe I sent you the wrong link. Okay, let me send you this one. If you can pull this up, It says percentage of Muslims who strongly favor gay marriage. Okay, 18 to 29, 49%. 30 to 49, 38%.
Where's that, in America?
This is Pew Research.
Yeah, but is it Muslims in America?
So this is Muslims who strongly favor or favor gay marriage, okay? The percentage of Muslims who strongly favor or favor gay marriage, who are ages, this is a table to put margins errors, and becomes a question. It doesn't say if it's America. Let's just assume it's America.
I imagine it would be.
50 to
those numbers don't
50
make
to
sense
64, 50 to 64 age, 11%, 65 plus is 2%. How different is this in Muslim nations?
Very different.
Give us an idea.
It would be the opposite. You'd be.
I'm shocked at those numbers. I mean, I'm not too crazy about these polls, because you could be very deceptive and you could come up with ways to kind of get what you want from these polls by asking questions a certain way. So I don't really, or even who you decide to poll. What areas. There's a number of ways where you can kind of manufacture what you want. Yeah, so I don't fully trust any kind of polls, period. So anyway, all right, let's continue.
Be seeing the exact opposite.
Right there on the chart. If you see,
just survey which countries are legally allow, in Muslim majority countries where this is a legal, where the definition of marriage has changed from being between a man and a woman. In Muslim majority countries, I don't think there's any really traction for this idea. But
Which Muslim countries is gay marriage legal?
I can't think of one.
What do you think about that?
Look, for me, this is a human issue. I don't think we should have to change the definition of what marriage is to have sympathy for people that have same-sex attraction. I think that there's a lot of crossing of lanes here, which I think has been largely responsible for some of the mess we now find ourselves in, where men are saying they're women. I think tradition is important. It needs to be respected and maintained. There's a reason in tradition, marriage is between a man and a woman. Civil unions and civil partnerships are something else. I'm not into in any way persecuting minority identities. My interest is to make sure that tradition as well is preserved and not tinkered with, because what we've seen of late with the woke culture wars, and said we'd come to the trans thing, and maybe we can go into it here now, is the absurdity of this all becomes apparent when you start. Tradition is there for a reason, and the wisdom that underpins a lot of our traditional perspectives, in time you can begin seeing, especially as you become older and become a parent. And if you start playing with that wisdom, as I say, the absurdity becomes apparent now. There is no reason other than a respect for tradition and a recognition of reality, which is what tradition is, I believe, and the wisdom that is underpinning tradition is based on. There is no reason other than that to object to a lot of this madness. The reason I object to this madness is I say that we as human beings have existed here on this planet for so many thousands of years, and along you come and think that you've suddenly found an answer to these questions, and the answer is that I can identify however I want. Sorry, but I don't think that you have the accumulated wisdom of generations of human beings on this planet. People that have had intersex identities, people that have had trans identities, people that have had same-sex attraction have always existed in these societies. And if you go to Pakistan as an example here, if you go to Lahore, and if you go to the Badshah Masjid, which is one of the big, most beautiful mosques in Lahore, around that Badshah Masjid was the traditional red light district of the Mughal emperors. Because a lot of the concubines and others would live around the court. And in Pakistan, there's a very old tradition of men that would come to weddings and dance, and they would be dressed up as women. And in Urdu, the common parlance for this is kusre. Yeah, and it's not, the idea of the trans identity in a traditional Muslim society is not. It's not alien. But what never happened was that you take that phenomenon, which was they weren't, of course there are challenges with how they're treated, and that needs to improve in every case. But what never happened was you take that identity, which has existed there for a long time, and now you want to start tinkering with tradition by changing the norms and the customs and the legislation upon which those norms and customs lead to, by saying that I'm going to now change the definition of marriage. So they were there and they've always been there. But there's a reason that tradition has led to this idea that marriage is between man and woman. And I think that's how it should stay.
It's also slippery slope, right? Because you said that's how I think it should stay, is what you're saying.
Marriage, yeah.
Marriage between a man and a woman. Yeah. That's how it should stay. Yeah. Okay. So today you'll hear guys coming out, and we talk about this with Tate. Andrew Tate says, look at Christians, they're compromising their values and principles. He says, you know why I'm a Muslim? Because they don't compromise their values and principles. And he's got a big audience, and his audience is who? 16 to 35 years old, okay? Which is the audience that is typically afraid, angry, disappointed, heartbroken, moldable, shapeable, recruitable. His audience is the audience that is a shapeable audience, right? Yep. It's the audience the U.S. government wants to have, because the sooner you get to them through educational system, whatever, maybe you have them for the rest of their life, and you already know how they're going to be voting for you, got them. For the
and this is why they made him public enemy number one.
Most part, right? Okay. Why do you think the Christian religion is caving in, where they're sitting there and saying, well, you know what, it's okay. Let's just compromise. It's okay. And I know you don't have the answer to it. It's not like
I'll give you an
I'm looking for a definite, but I want an answer of your opinion.
I'll give you an answer.
And by the way, do you think it is a mistake clergy's make? Do you think it is a mistake the Christian church is making?
Yeah. Yes. So an answer is, and before I give an answer that I'm saying, to make it clear, I'm married to an American who was raised in Catholic school. My mother-in-law is a practicing Catholic who visits church every Sunday and for all the occasions such as Christmas and what have you. And so I am familiar in a family sense with Catholicism, and my remark.
And before he even gets into it, I'm going to say what I think it is. I think it's because, and this is as a former Christian, I truly believe from what I've seen and what I've lived and what I see others live, and my whole life interacting with Christians in a mostly Christian society, I feel that the biggest reason is that most Christians don't really believe that strongly in Christian doctrine. They'll be quick to say they're Christian. They'll be quick to tell you a couple little things that everybody commonly says. But if you try to get them to go deep in it, into explaining and making sense out of it, they're unable to. And a lot of times they'll completely say, you know what? To be honest, I don't really care about that. Or I don't even believe in that part. And just from my experience, I can't speak for all Christians. I know there's some that's, hardcore about it. And, that don't feel this way at all. But from my encounters, what I've noticed is that most just, it's not a real deep belief. I've rarely ever found this, and I have found it in certain individuals. But man, I can't count how many thousands of people that if you ask them what's your religion, you have to write it, they'll say Christian. And I could count on my hands the amount of these people that truly adhere or believe in the full doctrine or even know the full doctrine. And I truly believe this is why it's easier for them to waver. Where I found with Muslims, even Muslims that's not practicing, they'll be quick to tell you, look, I'm wrong, I'm messed up, if I die right now, I'm going to hell. So they know they're fully wrong, and they'll be quick to tell you, look, this is wrong. And I feel like you find that more with Muslims versus Christians. And I don't say that disrespectfully. I'm just telling you the truth as a former Christian from a Christian family in a Christian society. So that's just my opinion. But let's see what he says.
Remarks are in no way meant in any way to disparage any faith tradition. But an answer to your question, I believe, is it comes back to the nature of institutions, in this case, clergy. When you have, as I say, every institution becomes corrupted and it drifts to more and more power. We saw that in the church. So the paedophilia scandal isn't confined to Epstein. It existed in the church as well. Now, what was Epstein? So Whitney Webb's written a book, One Nation Under Blackmail's a 2-volume book worth having a look at. I interviewed her for the Radical show, which basically we had a whole season, and then it was on Odyssey. And Odyssey's parent company was Library, and the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under Gary Gensler, enforced against Library while not enforcing against FTX. And so Library had to shut down. And so Odyssey, the platform still exists, but Radical, the show, couldn't carry on. But we had Whitney Webb on that show, and that's an example. One Nation Under Blackmail's her book. And it goes into how the entire Epstein operation was for the purposes of
What's that drink that he has right here? It looks like a bottle of Scope or something. I don't know. I don't know why I noticed these kind of...
acquiring compromat on senior political leaders, so that once you have that compromat or compromising material...
Wait a minute. The brother doesn't have Scope and a cup of coffee. How you gonna mix those two, Ahi? I don't know.
You can have them do your bidding at risk of you exposing what you know about them if they don't. So take what we know about Epstein, and one of his former handlers is all there in the press. In fact, in the British newspaper, The Sun, you've got an interview with one of them saying, I was Epstein's Mossad handler, and the reason we were doing this was to try and force politicians, with the compromise we had, to do our bidding. But that's how political blackmail works.
Majid, let me ask you a question. So what, I agree the whole, it's getting crazy. They're growing by the day. It's getting, to me, it's getting out of control. Why do you think such a small minority group is getting like protected and probably you can't, like if anybody talks negative against them, you're canceled, you're done, you're finished. How are they getting this much power?
Yeah.
How is
well, so this is deliberate. These culture wars are being stoked on purpose to avoid us having these conversations about one nation under blackmail, about globalism, about technocracy, about the attempts that are still undergoing right now to securitize the entire planet.